Perseverance and tenacity is a requirement to succeed. There is absolutely no way to experience achievement without staying persistent on this road to success. And that we always say, a door shut is not a door closed, it's not a door locked, it's not a door cemented. It is just a door that's currently closed. And I always say to keep your hand on the doorknob of opportunity so that when the door does open, you're ready for it.
Welcome to the UMGC podcast, Unstoppable Stories, with your host, Lauren Cardillo.
Today, I'm joined by Deshauna Barber, obviously a UMGC grad, but also a former Miss USA and a military vet. Welcome.
Hello, so happy to be here.
We love that you're here. So I have to ask the first question because it's like the most obvious one to me. Reading in your book, you said, beauty pageants were never something you thought about. You thought if it was for frilly, feminine people. You were also in the military. Those are two things that most people think do not meet or combine in any way. So tell us how you actually were both active duty and Miss USA. How did that happen?
So, oh my gosh, when people say to themselves, oh, beauty pageants, military, I always say that's kind of just who I am. And I didn't realize that it was historic or a big deal until I won Miss USA. And it kind of just took off, and everybody loved this like opposing industry or opposing space. And it was a really beautiful thing. But I was discovered in Target randomly when I was 19 years old. I had already been in my second year of ROTC at Virginia State University. And 2 years later, of course, I go on to commission as an officer in the Army Reserve. And it was this amazing balance, but it was a experience that I didn't realize how amazing and beautiful and stereotype breaking it was until the crown went on my head. And then now I have to not only be an advocate for the military, but I have to be an advocate for women in pageantry and being able to show that we're beauty and brains. So that was one of the really awesome things about being someone that represented both those spaces. And now we're seeing it more and more and more because the Miss America 2024 was a active duty Air Force officer, and then Miss USA 2024 was a active duty Army officer. So I was the first uniformed person to win Miss USA, and the current Miss USA was the first active duty military
Got it.
personnel to win Miss USA. So now we're just seeing it more. We're seeing women in uniform, we're seeing firefighters, we're seeing police officers. I think it's just incredible to be able to show the diversity that comes from being a woman. All of us had these very different backgrounds and experiences, but we all love the beauty industry. We love being able to put on some heels and put our makeup on and get our hair done. Well, maybe not the heels, but we like the hair and the makeup, right? So we like to go out and just be beautiful, feminine women. And I think one thing that's interesting about being a woman in uniform is you don't have many moments like that. You're constantly in a very masculine, male-dominated space. And I feel like pageantry is oftentimes an outlet for us, and it's an opportunity for us to be able to experience a different side of who we are.
When you first told your mom, who I know was very important in your life, that you were going to start doing the pageant thing, what was her reaction?
Oh, she was excited and very much on board. She was one of my biggest supporters, and she came to every single pageant that I competed in. And unfortunately, 3 months into winning Miss USA, she passed away from lung cancer. But it was a blessing and an honor to be able to win and her to be able to watch that on TV. And she was on hospice at the time. So it was just one of those things it gave me the fire that I needed to really fight for that crown and have the spirit that I needed to be able to get up there and show who I was, because I knew that she was watching and I knew that she wouldn't be living much longer. And I wanted it to win kind of as a gift for her. And I think I did that. So yeah.
But it wasn't an easy path because you went how many times to Washington, D.C.? 7 times?
7 total at the state level. So I
Right.
did 4 or 5 times, 4 times at Miss Virginia USA. Most people don't know this because I keep it a secret. Um, but I started in Miss Virginia, USA, and I ended up moving to DC and then competing in DC twice. So it was a total of 7 years of competing, and the first half of that was spent in Virginia.
So, what did those 7 years teach you? A lot of people would have given up, but I know you did not. And there's a message to that. What was it?
I think it was one of my first real life lessons that perseverance and tenacity is a requirement to succeed. There is absolutely no way to experience achievement without staying persistent on this road to success. And that we always say, a door shut is not a door closed, it's not a door locked, it's not a door cemented. It is just a door that's currently closed. And I always say to keep your hand on the doorknob of opportunity so that when the door does open, you're ready for it. And I always say to myself that timing is very important, that sometimes we want a goal, but who we are in that moment is not who we need to be able to properly handle the goal that we're requesting. So for Miss USA, I was not ready to be Miss USA my first year of competing at the state level, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I wasn't truly ready until the seventh time. And I was an evolved version of myself. And now that I experienced Miss USA, I'm so happy that I won at the time that I did because the maturity level, the understanding of the world and in life in general, and the responsibility that comes with being able to handle a national title, I needed to be a certain type of Deshauna first. And the appreciation that you feel once you achieve your goal and you have, hindsight is 2020, you're like, okay, actually, this was perfect timing. Like it happened when it was supposed to. So it's also just remaining faith filled and knowing that when your time comes, it'll be the perfect timing. It's not when you want it to happen, it's when it's supposed to happen and when it's the best time for it to happen.
You have a line that I've read and heard you say about failure
Yeah.
that I love. So, tell us that because it's such a great way of flipping sort of, the success idea.
Yes, it's do not fear failure, but please be terrified of regret, as giving up is the birth of regret. Yeah.
Because 7 times people might have given up.
Oh yeah. A lot of them do. A lot of them do. It's a huge financial commitment. It when you're standing on stage, it's a very vulnerable experience. You're being judged openly. So it definitely requires somewhat of strength and a little bit of a bulletproof vest to be able to take those bullets. Yeah.
But it's not just about a beauty pageant. I mean, the sense of, or if you're in Miss Congeniality, was it a scholarship program, right? Her line. But it's about applying that to life, you know, because you've done so many things and nothing seems to deter you. It's just like go, 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 go. I mean, failure's not an option.
It's not, and in the moments that it is, I always say to myself, I'd rather have attempted and failed than not attempted and been curious about whether or not I would have accomplished it. I have a hard time sleeping at night knowing that I didn't try something, knowing that I didn't attempt to go for something that I wanted. And I was reading an article actually of an individual that interviewed like dozens of like senior citizens living in a elderly home, and a lot of them had so many regrets on the career fields that they wish that they had went into, or even the people that they didn't pursue and marry. And there's all these things that they're talking about, and one of their biggest struggles is not chasing after a specific dream. And I remember in the article them, recommending that no matter where you are in life, that if there's still time for you to go for something, to go for it, because you don't want to be here, in your senior section of life, senior part of your life. You're thinking back to yourself, man, I wish I would have chased after that job, or tried to be a news anchor, or tried to be an astronaut, or tried ballet, like all these things we wish we would have done. And that's a hard pill to swallow, knowing that you had life and you didn't try every single thing that popped up in your heart to desire. So I'm the type of person that if it pops up in my heart, I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'd rather experience failure than experience regret.
Reading your book, which I will find. Where is it? Here we go. Reading your book, pretty ugly lessons, which I love the title.
Thank you.
I found out that you told your story about meeting the woman in Target, who really became your mentor for beauty pageants. And you told it at a UMGC commencement. And I remember it. I've seen the footage. And you went home that day and there was an eviction notice on your apartment door.
Yes.
And I was like, I had no idea. So
Yeah.
tell us how that turned things around or what that did.
So, oh my gosh, I just love thank you, Lauren, for purchasing my book. Thank you so much. It's such a great book and I got to do a better job at promoting it more. But it's a very vulnerable book for me, but it's also a self-help book that kind of goes over my top lessons in life. And that specific story that you just mentioned is a stay the course lesson because as soon as I handed over my crown as Miss USA, which was in May of 2017, UMGC had already reached out to me about being their fall commencement speaker. So I said to myself, oh, absolutely, because I was stepping into motivational speaking. And I left Miss USA with the goal of focusing in on promoting and building my speaking career. But what a lot of people don't tell you about being a motivational speaker is that no one wants to book you without speaking experience, but you have no speaking experience because no one wants to book you, right? So up until UMGC booking me, I was getting only pro bono speeches, right? And UMGC, the commencement speech was pro bono. But I was maxing out credit cards. I was taking out loans. I kept saying to myself, I can't go back to a 9 to 5 because my goal is to continue to be a full time motivational speaker. But no one is willing to pay me right now because I have very minimal speaking experience or they're just not allowed. And when you're traveling and speaking with people for free, that's costly and it's expensive. So I was running behind on my rent. It was just financially a horrible experience. And then I go to UMGC, I give this like groundbreaking speech, and we'll get to what that speech did for me. But I gave this amazing speech. So many people are tagging me, posting me, messaging me about how great this speech was. I come home, there's eviction notice on my door, and I'm bawling my eyes out. I rip it off of the door and I walk into my apartment and I say, okay, Deshauna, we have to make a decision because this speaking thing isn't working out. You're going to be a homeless Miss USA if you don't figure out what to do here. And I'm thinking, okay, go back to work because I was working in the government before Miss USA, before the speaking thing, before anything. It's easy for me to go back. My master's degree is from UMGC in computer information systems. I can go back to the government as an IT analyst, no big deal. Or I can continue to step out on faith and choose to continue to go for this motivational speaking thing. And I sat there and I sat there and I sat there and I sat there, and something in my heart told me, stay the course, stay the course. There's something in my spirit said, there's something coming, Deshauna, something. So I took the UMGC speech, I posted it on all of my social media networks, and I put all these hashtags, motivational speaker, commencement speaker, all this stuff. And then I get contacted by a platform called Goalcast. And they are a massive platform for inspirational content, millions and millions of social media followers across platforms. And they say, hey, Deshauna, we saw your UMGC speech at random. We'd love to put it on our platform. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, absolutely. Thinking I'll get like 5 or 10,000 views, within the first year, not worrying anything about it. And they wanted rights to the content. So I sent it over to them. Within a month, they posted it. And I think within the first 60 days, it had reached over 25 million views within the first 60 days. And my phone was ringing off the hook. I had an agency at the time that started getting all of these inquiries for bookings. And literally, ever since then, I've been a full-time motivational speaker, booked and busy, six-figure income off of speaking. And it had transformed my life, all thanks to UMGC giving me the opportunity to speak to 7,000 people in this massive stadium and being able to take that video and post it. And now I haven't seen an eviction notice since. So I'm happy to say that. And I'm so grateful to this university and my alma mater for the opportunity to stand on that stage and be able to use that content to show, the world that, hey, I've got something to offer. I've got a story to tell. And it's just insanity to see, even to this day, I still get bookings off that same speech. And that's again where you mentioned, Lauren, the quote. And that's where I created the quote when I was writing the UMG speech. It's the first time I ever said it, which was, "Do not fear failure, but please be terrified of regret, as giving up is the birth of regret." It's the first time I ever said that quote on stage was at the commencement ceremony. And it's just a beautiful thing to be able to have this revelation about all these puzzle pieces falling into place for me to be where I am today.
It's just weird is not the right word, but you gave a great speech. You come home, it's like a complete downer, and then a couple months later, it turns into this amazing thing, and it's like that is just it's serendipitous, but it's also about perseverance.
Absolutely, it is, and it's also it's about good friends. I called my best friend of 15 years, and I said, "Hey, I need you to pay my rent." And, she has to do what a best friend does, which is, say, "Hey, I support you, but I'm not gonna be able to do this every month, but this is what I can do for you right now." And I was able to pull in some other, side gigs and stuff like that, content and things to be able to pull in income to get me, through that next few months before the speech went viral. But it is very serendipitous. It's the opportunity to see that, wow, if you just get past that point of giving up, and we all come to that point where it is like this massive sign or this massive happening in our life that says to us, yeah, this might be the end of the road. If you can get your mind in your body in your faith past that line, it's almost like the universe says, okay, you deserve it now. Like, we threw every curveball at you, and now you deserve it. So let me just go ahead and give it to you now. That's what it feels like, you know? It just felt like getting past that point of giving up. Right when you have reached your limit, when you are at the bare bottom, wait just a little bit longer. And usually by then, something miraculous ends up happening. It's beautiful.
You said a little earlier, in passing, but military analysts, that sort of thing. What drew you to the military? Because that's part of your story too, and it sort of motivates who you are. What drew you there?
My parents, so both my mom and dad, sister and brother are all Army veterans. So I am, and my stepmom too. So we were a military Army family traveling from base to base every 3 to 4 years. And it was kind of a known fact to myself and my siblings that my parents were going to require us to join the military. We already knew. The only difference is that my siblings, my sister and my brother, went straight after high school, straight into boot camp and all of that. And I decided to go the officer route, which means that I went through my university to commission into the military. But I always knew that I was going to join. I didn't know when, at what point it was going to be. But my alma mater, Virginia State University, where I got my bachelor's degree, they have a great ROTC program. And I was really happy when they accepted me into their university and I saw all the scholarships that they had available. And I was able to get a scholarship my first semester, and that kind of just took me off into stepping into being an officer in the military.
What was the best part of the military for you? Because you did lots of different jobs, and most people think of the military as just defense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What was the best part for you, or what'd you learn from it that really shaped you?
I would say the best part is probably the friendships that I experienced, and some of the things I learned most from the military is I'm really good at accepting a challenge. Um, I took company command in 2014, I believe. I was only a first lieutenant at the time, and I was like 23, 24, and y'all are putting me in a commander position to lead soldiers. Many of these soldiers are looking at me more like their daughter than as their commander, because they're my parents' age and I'm their children's age. So it's also about earning respect and stuff like that. But it was my first real taste of what it means to be a leader. And, we've all had good leaders and bad leaders, good environments and toxic environments. So by then, I had had a few bad experiences of leadership in the military. And I told myself, I want to make sure that my soldiers remember me for great things. Like I want to leave a great taste in their mouth. I want to make sure that their families know that they're supported, that I have an open door policy that really is an open door policy, that I'm understanding and empathetic. So I had this thing that I talk about even in my speeches is about the power of compassionate leadership. And that if we lead with compassion, our employees and our workforce works better when they believe that they are loved, supported, respected, appreciated, and that they feel the compassion and the empathy from you and your work. It's just angry people don't work well. Mad people don't work well. So we have to learn how to make people happy. And my soldiers' happiness was very important to me. Their sleep and their rest and their wellness and their health was very important to me. And because of that, we worked really well together and ended up becoming one of the top performing companies in the battalion and the brigade at our unit in Fort Meade, Maryland. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, so really just leading with love. Honestly, if you lead with love, these soldiers are working the best I've ever seen them work before,
Mhm.
and a lot of them are coming out of places in which they didn't necessarily appreciate their leadership. So now I'm having to deal with some of the resentment that they have from previous units, and I could just see them transforming, now becoming excited to come to drill every month and excited to work and learning so much. And it's just leadership to me is a responsibility and less of a powered when you're on a power trip. Sometimes people are looking for power. I'm looking for impact when I'm in a leadership space. So after being in that command position for 3 to 4 years, it prepared me for becoming president of Service Women's Action Network, which is an advocacy group that I was president of for 3.5 years that was based in DC. And it's an advocacy group that's specifically for helping elevate the lives and the impact and all these things of for women veterans and women service members. We advocate a lot on the Hill. We did all these amazing things. And I had an all women majority female staff or majority veteran staff. And I was able to kind of bring that compassionate leadership style into that position. And I just realized, yeah, leadership is a lot of responsibility, but if you give it to someone that is capable of leading with compassion, you're going to have the best outcome of the people that they lead.
So I notice a trend. So, that service, be it to women veterans, military, the different things you did as Miss USA, why so important? How did that get instilled into you?
I think because I believe specifically that veterans are overlooked, but especially women veterans are overlooked. I'll never forget a tweet from probably 6 or 7 years ago. It was this unit getting deployed. I forgot where they were going, but whatever it was, the individual that tweeted it was not happy about the deployment. And they said in the tweet, I hate to see sons, fathers, uncles going off to war. And I remember thinking to myself, what about daughters, mothers, aunts? Like, how are we completely disregarding the millions of women that serve in the military? And we're just such an overlooked group. We're completely forgotten. For individuals that don't know me, when I remember, going to all these different places and a random person says, yeah, I'm a service member, blah, 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 and having this whole conversation like they're trying to teach me something. And then I say, well, I'm a veteran as well. And they're shocked. They're like, what? You're a veteran? Yeah, women serve in the military. Y'all don't see all these women in the military. So it's one of those things where these VSOs, which are veteran service organizations, what was discovered with Service Women's Action Network by the founders that founded it 15 years ago, or longer than that now, is 2009. So 16 years ago. And they discovered that veteran service organizations, their primary resources are for men. They are male centered. That comes down to the legislation that they advocate for. That comes down to the statistic and the data that they run to be able to prove the legislation that they're trying to pass, and they completely disregard the idea that some of these things that we're creating should also include the other section of our military force, which happen to be women, and we have very different needs. So, what are you doing to advocate for women specific needs? And that's why the organization was founded. And during my time in service, my mom, during her time in service, you really do see, even down to the uniform, even down to the what do you call it, the LBV, which is the bulletproof vest that you wear. Those things are specifically fitted to a man's body, and it was causing. They ran a this research to find out that because it's focused on a man's body, women, we have hips. So it was chafing the base of a lot of women's stomachs and causing cysts to form in their abdomens. So it's little things like that that no one is thinking about. Also comes down to our Kevlars, which is the this hard hat that goes on your head. You're considering the fact that there's no hair under there. What about the individuals that have hair, right? And now you're getting all of these spots on your head and the back of your head that's also causing cysts and abrasions and stuff like that. So it's those things that are not thought about because these organizations and the military as a whole has had a tendency to be very male centered. And that's one of the reasons, I know it was long winded, but that was one of the reasons why I thought that SWAN, Service Women's Action Network, was such a major organization to be a part of. I was happy to be their president for 3.5 years and then transition to the board of directors. But yeah, it's one of those things where we have to really open our eyes to who's really in the uniform, and it's not just men.
And I think that would drill down to even the way, Jeeps are modeled, because maybe there's someone shorter sitting there or,
Yeah,
it's just you're absolutely right. It was made for one thing and not the other.
exactly.
So how active are you now with advocating for women vets as well?
Oh,
To
I'm
keep going.
still very active. Thank you for asking that. I'm still very much involved with different organizations like Operation Homefront, USO, Student Veterans of America, IAVA, and I just recently last year founded my own organization called Women Veterans for Change, with the goal of giving women a voice to make positive impact in our communities, but specifically on the Hill, making sure that we're involved in some of these decision makings because there's a lot of things that are not being thought of. And we're able to bring that diversity of thought, especially from a woman's point of view. So it's still very much a newborn organization, but I'm happy to see it growing and building, and I'm developing it. But I'm always kind of in this space and working with different organizations and communities. I actually just recently did I was at the Military Influencer Conference in Atlanta this past October, and I was there with TikTok actually. They had a booth and they had a panel that I was on, and I was even a part of their Veterans for TikTok program where they donated $10 million to 10 different VSOs, so $1 million each. And they're doing all these great things for veterans. So I had a really great job, a great experience speaking about some of that work last year at the Military Influencer Conference. It's one of my favorite military conferences. If you all are veterans or service members or spouses, or even military children, it's open to all these individuals, including just military allies. I don't know where they're going to be at next year, but just look them up, Military Influencer Conference, and it's incredible space to be.
So someone listening to this would say, wow, she's this really strong, great woman. But then reading your book, but you were bullied in high school
Yeah, yeah.
and you were like this thin, little, I won't say little, that's not the word, but one, how did that happen? And two, how did you throw that aside? Like, tell me what the experience was.
Yeah, so I know people are like, "Oh, she was bullied in high school." I know people think of it that way, but growing up, when you're transitioning into a space like pageantry that requires confidence, and your confidence has been beat down for so many years, that bullying really does affect you. For anybody that has experienced bullying, it really does affect your self-esteem during these primary development years, right? So I was a very small girl. Have you ever seen the show, Pepper Ann? You remember that show? Oh my god, that on Cartoon Network, I think. It was my favorite show because I'm like, "Oh, this is representation." Pepper Ann is so skinny and, like, very thin, and, like, they call her, like, spaghetti and stuff like that, and I was just like, "Okay, this is representation." But my point is that I was very thin. I'm still very thin now, so just imagine me thinner. And in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I didn't reach, so you all have specifics. I didn't reach 100 pounds until I got to college. That's the first time that I made it over the 100-pound mark, and not to give too much information, but I'm only 125 now, right? And I entered college in, 2007. I've only gained 25 pounds since then. So I have very fast metabolism. I've always had super high metabolism. And in high school, oh, the way in which everyone never forgot to remind me that I am very skinny. I'm 90 pounds, 12th grade. And I just had to constantly deal with this reminder of not being considered beautiful. And it all had to do with my weight. So by the time I got to competing in pageants, this was probably one of the first places where being skinny is okay, but that's the beauty industry, right? Where modeling, it's okay to be skinny. If you're in the public eye, it's okay to be skinny. But in pageantry, it was okay, but I was still very much considered too skinny. There was a such thing as too skinny in pageantry. So I had to, one, make it a priority for me to work out as much as possible so that I could kind of build muscle since I can't seem to build any fat. And and it really just pushed me to, okay, you're not happy with the way that you look, and seems like the judges may not so much be happy with the way that I look, which might be why it took so long to win. But what I had to work on is that you are, who you say you are. Does that make sense? It sounds crazy, but you are who you are and who you say you are. I say that I'm beautiful. I say that I'm gorgeous. I say that I deserve this crown. I say that this dress looks beautiful on me. And I'm going to make sure that when I hit the stage, my aura is showcasing just how confident I am in the way that I look. Because what's the alternative? To go on this stage and proceed to look like I'm not confident, to look like I have low self-esteem, just to give them more reason not to crown me. So pageantry kind of forced me to find confidence. There's literally, it's very difficult to invest so much money and time into something just to already be sabotaged by the time you get there by having low confidence. So I was forced to find something within me to look myself in the mirror and say you're beautiful. And with time, with manifestation, with speaking it into existence, I got to a point where, you know what, I am really loving what I see in the mirror, and I want that to be expressed during my time on stage. And again, it sounds bad, but representation, right? Representation, but I want it to really represent for the really skinny girls, right? The girls, the little girls that walked up to me and said, "Oh, you're so small." You know who's a random person that was very, very slim that I loved growing up? Whitney Houston. I said, "Oh, I could totally be Whitney Houston one day." She was so slim in her early years during the How Will I Knows and the I Wanna Dance with Somebody. Like, she was so small, and I used to love watching her music video because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." She got somewhere so I could get somewhere, right? But yeah, it's one of those things where it seemed small at the time. I know people are like, "She's bullied," but bullying really does impact your self-esteem, and I can't fathom being in school today where there's social media. Prior to when I was in high school, we had no social media, we had MySpace, but that was really about it, and we didn't really have cell phones. I didn't get my first cell phone until 10th grade. So even the access of bullying is very different than it is today. So I feel even more remorseful for the individuals that experience bullying in this day and age because of the fact that it's oftentimes comes in the form of something digital, a digital bullying and social media bullying. And it's horrible. But yeah.
Well, I mean, high school for girls is just bad enough as it is, and then you
Yeah.
add that layer on top. You know, I am totally with you on that one. It's like you said, you didn't go the path of your brother and sister who went immediately military. You went education first. Also, good way to pay, obviously, for
Yes.
but then from then you've gotten a master's, you've gotten a certificate, you got the honorary doc. What is it that drives you to become more educated or a pursuit of knowledge?
I think everyone should pursue education. And here's the thing, I know that education is expensive. So even I always tell people in my motivational speeches that even if you say can't go to college, you can't afford it, books are cheap. You can go on Amazon.com and get you a $15 book, a $20 book. Any way in which you're trying to gain knowledge is a way in which you are contributing and building yourself. You're building your ability to have understanding of life, and you're just adding more things to your resume to help you build wealth. I've always known that the way for me to become a subject matter expert and to be booked for things and to be considered for consulting work and stuff like that, I have to understand what I'm talking about, and I have to find a niche and a space within the world that I'm passionate about or that I know is going to be able to help me build myself up. So it's always been a goal for me to make sure that I am constantly on the road of elevation. And I think the only way to do that is through education, it's through reading, and it's through challenging yourself and training yourself in different spaces. I'll put this out there because there's one thing that I have a goal of doing in 2025 is learning another language. I want to be bilingual, right? So that's something that I'm challenging myself to do this year. So y'all are the first to hear it. If I don't have it done by 2026, you'll know I failed. But I don't regret, right? Um, but yeah, it's just what are we doing to constantly elevate and learn and just become this? We have access to a wealth of knowledge. We have to be able to chase after that, and it's a privilege to be able to have access to that knowledge.
I went back and looked at the Miss USA
Uh-huh.
when you won. Your outfit was this great blend of fashion, military, and glam.
Okay, yeah.
Explain why you wanted to do that. And for people who don't know, it was sort of a very stylized warrior outfit, almost
Yeah.
like goddess like. Why'd
Yes.
you decide to do that?
It was my, Miss Universe national costume, and I think you really kind of encompassed it. It was all these pieces of me to be this fighter, and I had a shield and little wings behind me, and it was primarily silver, but the shield had red, white, and blue on it, and then an eagle on the front for the American eagle. And to me, it was kind of just this implication of just patriotism, this love for country, and a different idea of what it would mean to be a soldier at a different time, right? Like we're going back to medieval times, all right? We're going way, way, way back. But what does it mean to be a warrior? And still a little bit of an element of a modernized version because it's silver and all of these things not made out of wood. But to me, it was just accessing this superhero piece of me, and I think that veterans, in my opinion, are American superheroes. They are out there risking their lives for us each and every day. My family risked their lives for this country and the American dream each and every day during their service. And to me, when I was growing up and I looked at my mom and my dad leaving the house in their uniforms and in their strapped up boots that they shined that morning, and I'm just like, wow, these are my superheroes. So when I had the opportunity to represent not only myself but the country on the Miss Universe stage, I wanted to showcase what it means to be this powerful woman that's a fighter, and that's somebody that's even a protector. And I think that that's kind of what this idea of being a veteran and being a service member is in this country.
It sort of encapsulated everything you are.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me what was going through your head when they read your name and you've won?
Oh, it's very nostalgic. And it was one of those moments where it's an out of body experience because I'm sitting here holding hands with Miss Hawaii, Chelsea Harden, and she is just amazing, sweet person. And I remember thinking to myself, thank you, God, for first runner up. This girl is going to be an amazing Miss USA. She's going to be awesome. But thank you for getting me to this point. So when they called my name, I'm like, oh, y'all chose me? And it is almost like my body and my spirit detached, and it was the most shocking thing. It's almost a blur where I have to watch the crowning on YouTube to even really remember what happened, because I completely blacked out, it felt like. I was so shocked, and the way the audience went crazy and the amazing women that I competed with ran up and hugged me. I just don't even remember it. I was in pure shock, and it's the first time I've ever really been in shock before, a good shock, of course. But it was beautiful and it was exciting. And I finally got some rest that night and I said to myself, okay, now I got a year to make some impact, and it's such a privilege. It's a massive privilege, and you're going against so many women that have worked their butts off to be on that stage. So it's also a little bit of survivor's remorse because you're like, gosh, all these women worked hard for this and they gave it to me, so I have to make sure that I do a good job. It's responsibility. It's the responsibility of being that class of women. And I was the class of 2016, so I told them even as I competed at Miss Universe, I said, you know, I want you all to know I'm not just going to Miss Universe as Deshauna or Miss USA. I'm going there as a representative of our class. And I take this responsibility very seriously. And I want you all to know I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do my best, not just for myself, not just for the United States of America, but for you guys who all worked to be in this position. So just know it's important to me. And I hope that y'all know I'm going to do my best. And it was a beautiful experience. I'm still very close to my class. Actually, my one of my bridesmaids was Miss Kansas USA my year, and just the relationships that are built from it. It's so many things I could say, but I would definitely just say in that moment it was an out of body experience, and it was just an honor to win that title.
So if that bullied high school student saw you today, what would she say? What would she think?
You know, she messaged me after I won Miss USA. She was one of my biggest bullies. Oh my gosh. She messaged me and she said, "Oh, girl, congratulations on winning Miss USA. I knew you were when you're such a winner." And I ignored her. I know that that's probably not the most mature thing to say on this podcast, but I ignored her. Okay. She made my life in high school a very bad experience. But I think for me, what I would assume she would say is maybe, dang, that sucks. This is a girl that I kinda harassed growing up. I would hope she felt some level of remorse, but I'm glad she messaged me to say she was proud of me. But, it's one of those things where you kinda gotta side eye people a little bit because it's like, "Told you, you called me all these things, but now I'm Miss USA, considered one of the most beautiful women in the country." It's kind of the fuel to the fire to be reminded of all the naysayers and the individuals that thought you couldn't accomplish something. To me, there's no better fuel than a hater, right? So I always think to myself that her bullying really put the fuel and the gasoline in me to even push through, leave high school and go on the road to success. She was one of those individuals that I think I said I would always remind myself, remember the things that they would call you. Let's make sure that they can't call you it now.
But what if you could talk to you back then?
Oh yeah, if I could talk to me, I would just tell myself, "You're so beautiful, you're so amazing, you're an amazing friend, you're an amazing daughter, an amazing sister. You do so many great things for people. Ignore the naysayers, ignore the people around you that want to bring you down, and just focus on getting out of this high school and know that life is going to become this beautiful, amazing thing that you would have never dreamed of. So just wait on it and stay the course."
And that's great advice for anybody.
Yes.
Deshauna, thanks so much for joining us today. Loved listening to your inspiring stories. And for all those who listened and watch, please like and subscribe to our podcast, Unstoppable Stories, on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Again, thanks so much for being here. See you next time.